Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Love Summit. So, I am here with Dylan, and it's his turn to who's going to wow us with some super knowledge. So, over to you, Dylan. Hi.
Thank you so much, and I do understand and appreciate. Actually, running events can be notoriously difficult at the best of times. I think you and the team have done remarkably well to put something together like this using all the new technology. So yeah, really hats off to you for persevering and getting through that. I can imagine it can't have been easy, but look, thank you so much for inviting me on. And if I might just share why this is really important to me to be with you and collaborating with you and the Spiritual Awakening Circle, is that I really feel in my heart that when you awaken the spiritual power and combine that with a financial abundance, so in essence, the spiritual power, the divine spiritual, now has the financial resources to what I call scale spirituality. I think we really speed up our evolution towards a higher consciousness. And I truly believe that. And I feel, certainly from my experiences, here in the UK and out in India, I've certainly seen that so many beautiful spiritual souls who are either practitioners and support other people, or who are, just leading their own spiritual journeys themselves. So many of them are stuck in economic survival mode. And, perhaps there are deep held financial traumas, money traumas that haven't been resolved. And what I feel happens in a world that is run by money, in a world that is driven by the economy, in a world where 7.8 billion human souls are impacted by this thing called money, if the spiritual energy is not able to move itself out of economic survival mode, I think we do damage to our journey as a species towards high consciousness. So it is just a true delight to be here with you and to share with the Spiritual Awakening Circle. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall I kind of...
You carry on.
Yeah, I guess if I give the background to kind of what we're talking about, I know that we've got probably about 20 minutes or so. So where I really want to get to in the next 20 minutes is perhaps an understanding of, where some of the money stories and the money trauma comes from. But more importantly than that, because I think a lot of people have done work on their money stories. It's not a new thing to be thinking about the traumas we have around money and, this concept of money mindset and money stories. I don't think that's new. But hopefully what I hope to offer is how we can understand the relationships with money in their different manifestations and what the illusions are that keep us back from really nurturing those relationships. And I feel that or certainly what I've seen is the relationship with money is split into 4 component parts. So number one, the trauma, as I think many people already know, comes from deep-rooted kind of psychological imprints that happen to us usually between the ages of 0 and 7, that we're so fully formed psychologically in that imprint period. And, where do these money stories, where are they rooted? Well, they're rooted in our money memories. And what are the money memories caused by? Well, it's everything we see. It's everything we hear. It's everything we hear that we shouldn't hear. It's everything that we see that we shouldn't hear. It's the receiving of that gift, for example, from your parents or from loved ones, when they really can't afford the gift. So you receive the gift, but there's some level of guilt associated with that receiving. And what happens is, over the years, when you keep receiving through guilt and you keep giving through guilt, that kind of embeds those traumas even further. Now, look, we just completed a 5-day experience. It's called the Love Money Miracle Experience. Over 200 people registered. And the shocking thing, or rather the unsurprising thing, was that when we did day 1, where we were really uncovering people's money memories, it was a shock to see, although not surprising, to see just how similar people's money memories are and how similar our experiences are with respect to money when we're young. Now, I've done a lot of work in the charity sector and for the United Nations in the voluntary sector, out in Africa, and we've kind of done a fair bit of work out in India. Their experiences with money are very different. Their money stories are very different, but particularly here in the US, on mainland Europe, when we're looking at, well-developed economies it seems that the money memories are rather more damaging and rather more traumatic. You know, when I'm out in Africa, if we're in Uganda and I'm speaking to one of the head teachers of maybe a school that we support, and I'm speaking to Benedict, and I say, you know, Benedict, you know, what would you feel if I showed you here in a briefcase $1 million in cash? What would that represent to you? Well, for him, that represents computers, sanitary blocks, it represents, or sanitation blocks rather, it represents a school gym, it represents many more kids in the village coming to school. But you do that same experiment here in developed economies, particularly with those beautiful souls that are on a spiritual journey or helping others on theirs. And actually, that briefcase with $1 million of cash in it brings up rather different memories. It brings up rather different emotions. It triggers rather different aspects of the psyche than this idea that that cash could be a flow of love. It could be a force for good. It could be fuel for soulful impact. And that's really where we want to get to. So it's understanding where the money stories come from and how different our money stories in the developed world are to parts of the world that perhaps a lot of us are trying to assist, a lot of us are trying to awaken, or certainly a lot of us are working hard to lift those individuals out of poverty. The next aspect is, well, what keeps us locked in these money traumas? What keeps us feeling the trauma of those money memories? And I've kind of boiled it down, if you like, or synthesized it down to 4 illusions. And I come from a very mixed background. So I've kind of been a financial trader. I studied economics at university. My parents are kind of deeply spiritual. So I have kind of a Hindu Vedic upbringing. I've spent time in Italy, in Hindu ashrams. A really strange place to find a Hindu ashram, but on the foothills of Mont Blanc. I've been to ashrams in India with my parents. So it's a really interesting kind of combination of experiences. And then I gave it all up and went to volunteer in Rwanda for the United Nations, and was really faced with kind of human suffering at an inordinate level traveling through Africa. So my background is pretty confused, I guess, if for want of a better word. It's certainly not linear. But through that background, I've been able to synthesize, you know, these 4 relationships that keep beautiful souls locked in money trauma and prevent us as a spiritual collective, as a soulful collective, prevent us from really empowering our message with economic backing, that prevent us from really scaling the spiritual message. And these 4 relationships. So number 1, it's the relationship that we have with the world. And the illusion of that relationship is the illusion of scarcity and the illusion of fear. And we'll talk about how to kind of unravel those illusions in a second. The next relationship we have that is a component of the relationship with money is our relationship with self, our identity, our intention, our intuition. And the illusion there is the illusion of separation. And, you know, certainly in well-developed economies, the illusion of separation is just so deeply rooted into competitive, into combative, into very unconscious practices. So is it any surprise that, you know, the spiritually awakened or the spiritually awakening souls in our economies, is it any surprise that they have an aversion to wealth and an aversion to money and a deep-rooted kind of distaste around money? It's no surprise, is it? Because we are all about oneness and unity and togetherness and the human species as a whole. Yet the illusion of separation is just so deeply ingrained in the way that the economy works, or certainly how we perceive it to work, that I think that creates a very repelling force. So the relationship with the world is conducted under the illusion of fear. The relationship with self is very much conducted under the illusion of separation. And then the third relationship is the relationship we have with the economy itself. And I think a lot of people talk about their relationship with money, but it transcends beyond that, because your relationship with money means nothing other than the power you give to money. But your relationship with the economy, which is an actual thing, which has an impact on your life. Money doesn't have an impact on your life if it's just sat there doing nothing. If you've got a £50 note in front of you, that has no impact on your life unless you do something with it. You can feel something about it, but it has no physical manifestation in your life. Whereas with the economy, it's always acting on your life in one way or another, whether it's eroding the value of your assets or whether it's increasing the value of your assets. It's doing something to you. And I think a lot of people fail to address their relationship with the economy whilst we're working on some of the stuff around our relationship with money. So it's about broadening that. Our relationship with the economy is very much conducted under the illusion of consumption. We are under the illusion that our only relationship with the economy should be one of consumption. And if we don't want a relationship with the economy, then what we'll do is just stop consuming. We'll live minimalist lives, or we'll run off to the Himalayas with our rosary beads and maybe an orange robe, and we'll try and escape out of the economy rather than engaging with it. And then the fourth illusion is our relationship with the environment. And our relationship with the environment, I believe, is very much driven by the illusion of again separateness, but there's a coercive illusion around there. There's the illusion that you have a coercive influence on the environment, and in order not to have that coercive influence or not to be coerced by the environment, again, you just have to withdraw from it. And I see a lot of beautiful spiritual souls who, they feel, and certainly I was one of them when I ran off to Rwanda. I just thought, right, if I give up everything, if I give up my material world, if I give up my interactions and my conservation activity and, all of the small scale contribution, if I stop consuming, so I give up my relationship with the environment, if I lose my identity as whoever I wanted to be and just decide that because of all the pressure, I'm going to give it all up and just be a volunteer because I can't be bothered to engage in this world. If I lose myself and give it all up and run off, escape from this world, things will be better. And I will have a much greater impact on the world. I'll leave a much greater lasting influence on the world and on our species. But actually, that's not true, because to have the greatest impact on our species, to have the most lasting influence on the evolution of the human species, we need to build lasting, nurturing, wholesome relationships with the world, with ourselves, with the economy, and with the environment. And it's about breaking through the illusions. It's about turning the illusion of fear in the relationship we have with the world around us into the reality of courage. It's about saying, I accept the world as it is. I accept myself as I am. This is the only place I can start from. And from here, I will rise. And as I rise, we all rise. And so what happens when you start thinking about the world in terms of acceptance rather than fighting against it, you are able much more effectively then to tap into present moment awareness. You're then able to kind of reclaim your agency over your own divine potential, over your own pure potential. And it starts with acceptance. It starts with seeing through the fear and turning that fear into courage through acceptance, awareness, agency, appreciation. That next relationship, the relationship which we have with ourselves, is, it manifests in some pretty scary behavior, particularly where money is concerned, because what we're trying to do in one sense is getting to the core of who we are. We're trying to find our purpose. But from the outside world, we're very much programmed not to be that person. I think there's a lot of conflict there. And so one hand, we're trying to serve. How does this manifest in spiritual businesses? On the one hand, we're trying to serve. But on the other hand, we are almost programmed by the collective unconscious to believe that spiritual services shouldn't be charged for, or we shouldn't be making money as providers of a spiritual service. Or on the other hand, that actually spiritual service is not important at all, and we should spend all our time creating wealth and building wealth and buying houses. And so we never really find that middle ground between, really sharing our gift and getting paid handsomely for it, and then looking at that interaction as a flow of love, as a force for good, as fuel for further impact. It's about turning that illusionary aspect of our relationship with self as one of separation from who we are, but also who we are with the wider human species and with the wider people, planet, flora, fauna. This aspect of unity. It's about turning the separation into absolute unity. Unity and congruence in thought, word, and speech. Unity and congruence with all life form around us. So no longer are we operating from a place of separateness. We're operating from a place of absolute oneness. And that manifests itself in very different views around money, because when we see ourselves as one with the environment, and we see ourselves as one with the economy, we see ourselves as one with everybody around us, No more do we have to engage in any combative or competitive practices. It becomes all about collaboration. It becomes all around oneness. It becomes all around, really partnering with everybody around you. And there's one thing that I find really interesting, how quite often we are very quick to judge those with money. And that in itself is a form of separation. I certainly find this message is quite grating to some individuals in the spiritual community who have such deeply ingrained trauma around money. This idea that you should, you should seek to create riches, you should seek to use money as a fuel for scaling spirituality. It doesn't always land very well. But that in itself is part of the illusion. That's living under the elusive paradigm, because what you're saying is that we are separate from those with extreme wealth. They're bad and we are good, rather than maybe seeing that they themselves are human beings in some level of pain. And whilst we have the spiritual connection, and they enjoy the material connection, we both need to master both. So they need to master both the material and the metaphysical to live a whole and fulfilled life. And we need to help them to do that. And we need to master both the metaphysical and the material life. And perhaps there's something we can learn from them. And so I do feel and see and witness that actually the illusion of separation, it plays out pretty strongly in the spiritual community, sometimes even more so, because we detach ourselves so vehemently from the rest of the world that we do not see as awakening and that we do not see as awakened. And I'm here really to build that bridge, hopefully to show that actually you can master the material and the metaphysical. The illusion with the economy, the relationship with the economy is really, really simple. We switch that relationship from one where we are under the illusion that we must be consumers to the reality that we are absolute creative beings. And it is our absolute purpose to manifest that gift within us into a creative output. And once you see yourself as a producer, not a consumer, all of a sudden it stops being about your relationship with the money. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong with trying to fix money, is that when you focus on your relationship with money, it's very one-dimensional. But like I said, when you broaden that out to a relationship with the economy, and you switch from the illusion of having to be a consumer to the reality of being a producer, now what are you doing other than living your heart's purpose, which is to serve as many people on the planet as possible, as much of the planet flora and fauna and people as you possibly can. And then automatically you create a nurturing, healthy, wholesome relationship with the economy, because you're not under pressure to consume. You remove that from yourself. It stops being about the money. Well, the money is the end product of that relationship, but it stops being about the money. You don't have to worry about your relationship with the money. You just have to think, how am I going to scale my spiritual message? How am I going to get my message out to as many people as I can? And one of the exercises that we do is just to imagine if your tool, whatever it is that you are a practitioner in, if that tool was available to every single human being on the planet that needed you, how would you feel about your impact on the human species? How would you feel about the majesty of your life? How would you feel about being the kind of human being and the kind of spiritual being, even living a human existence that is able to serve all those who need your services? And that simply cannot be done without the economic power that will help you scale that. And so as soon as we start just shifting our paradigms around the economy, around ourselves, around the world, we have a very different relationship with this thing called money. And the irony is that we're not even focusing on a relationship with money. We're thinking about our relationship with the world, and we're thinking about our relationship with ourselves, the relationship we have with the economy. And then you come round full circle to the relationship we have with the environment through our consumption, through our contribution, and through our conservation activities. And I know a lot of people come to me and they'd love to make more environmentally friendly choices. They'd love to buy, whatever it might be, peanut butter that doesn't use palm oil, or bamboo toothbrushes, or whatever it might be, toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it and doesn't pollute the water supply. They'd love to make more ecological choices. They'd love to go on projects, replanting coral or whatever it might be, planting trees, building schools, helping countries with hospitals, whatever it might be. I meet a lot of people that would love to do that work. and have an impact at a conservation level, being a net positive human being. But their economic power is such that they're just not able to. They're stuck in economic survival mode because maybe they've spent all of their time trying to create a healthy relationship with money where the foundations are so traumatic. So yes, it's about understanding the trauma. It's about looking at how that trauma manifests in these 4 relationships, how the 4 relationships are conducted under 4 illusions, and what the 4 realities are. And the realities are, courage, connection, creativity, and compassion. The illusions are fear, separation, production, and coercion. And it's just switching that around. So that's a kind of a really broad overview of what we're doing. I think I mentioned to you before when we were talking offline that we have a 5-day experience. It's called the Love Money Miracle. It's an absolutely free experience. We've literally just finished one yesterday. It runs Monday to Friday. I think the next one is in a few weeks' time. But it's an absolutely free experience, and it just allows people to go through that process. We've got a 36-point questionnaire on there, which we've offered, of course, to all the viewers in the Spiritual Awakening Circle as an absolute free gift to assess what your current financial frequency is. And then we can start from there and say, look, here is where we need to put the work in. And we've got a kind of a 12-step process, if you like, that works people through creating a higher financial frequency and going out to the world with a much more expanded conscious currency. So that's at lovemoneymiracle.com. I think people can sign up at, but I'm sure you can get the link out too. So that's kind of a broad brushstroke. I think we're absolutely exactly on the 20 minutes, aren't we? So I'm going to...
You're doing very well. You're excellent.
Thanks, very kind. That's very kind, very kind. I'm going to zip shut now, though, and I can kind of hear. I'm happy to take any questions. I'm happy to kind of conduct the conversation or, do whatever you need to do. But thank you for allowing me to come and share. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
Fabulous. And I think we're going to have a question and answer session this evening. I don't know if you're available to come on.
I can definitely be available for that. Yeah, of course.
Superb. That will be wonderful. Okay, well, thank you very, very much for being here. It was a lovely, really interesting talk.
Thank you.
So absolutely, we shall be putting it out in the group as well.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Nikki.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Okay, take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.